Welcome to a brand new episode of the Football Suite. This week we have a guest called Andrew. I'm of course your host Leon, and I have my co-host Richard. Richard, do you want to say hello?
How you doing, guys? You alright?
I'm good. Andrew, this is your first time on the show. What are you expecting from the show today?
Well, I'm thinking it's just because it's such a great format for any fans to just come on. So, I mean, I just can't wait just to talk about football.
Definitely, and that's why we're all here, because we all want to talk about football in general, not just the big Premier League teams, as today's topics will entail. Our topics for this week are the match analysis of the weekend's games, our picks for the promotion from the Sky Bet Championship, and TV versus stadiums, how the big companies are ignoring the lower leagues. So, let's kick off with the weekend's matches. Liverpool, West Brom, did you guys watch the match?
If it's alright if I start, I managed to watch the highlights of Match of the Day.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Liverpool not at the best at all, I think, and I think we're really starting to see the post-Luis Suarez cracks really appearing now in Liverpool.
Definitely, I couldn't agree more. We're definitely seeing the sort of Spurs. What happened to Spurs the year before? They lose a big player and fill the void with a lot of average players expected to be these amazing players, but they're really not what these teams are expecting. Like, you bring in someone of a decent quality, but they're bringing in people that really aren't anything. Like, you see like people like Lamela, and you know, what are these players doing? The same as Markovic. Like, they seem to be the teams carrying these players.
I think you're gonna struggle, aren't you, really, replacing such a big player, regardless of who you support, whether you love him or you hate him. What he did on a football pitch was frightening. And I think Liverpool have maybe lost that fear factor in the fact that, I mean, look, as a United fan, you knew that if Suarez was playing, if he got a chance, he was going to put it away. The smaller teams, the lower leagues, the lower teams, your Norwich's, how many goals did he score against Norwich? I think he got a hat-trick every time he played against him.
Yeah, it was a very bad player for Norwich, wasn't he?
I just think that you can't really, I mean, off the back of what they did last season, where they rightly so, they should have won the Premier League, losing a player like Suarez, not really replacing him. I mean, Balotelli's a good player, but what is it? Is it 6 games, 6 starts, no goals? Whatever it's been for him, 8 starts, no goals.
I think he scored once in the Champions League, but it was against a pretty poor team, to be fair. But you're not seeing it with Liverpool. I mean, the year before, when Suarez was there, we could see the issues that they had. They needed a few like big, strong players in that team, and we thought, okay, they've got this money, they could go out and blow it on a very big player, but they haven't seemed to have done that. They've seemed to have brought in lots of like minimal players, thinking that they can build up a second team for the Champions League midweek games. But that's not what Liverpool needed. Liverpool weren't a bad side, as it was.
Yeah, I think with that as well, they've never really addressed the issue. I mean, it's still to this day, I can't quite understand why they ever let Pepe Reina leave the club. He clearly loved the club. The fans loved him. And
yeah, as we discussed last week, we all said that we thought Reina was a better keeper. When you're challenging for the title in Champions League, you have to have a top keeper. You can't have someone who you think, he's going to make a mistake here and there. But
he's not the best at goalkeeper. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not the worst goalkeeper in the league, but you just know he's got that mistake in him. The defence isn't that great. It's pretty similar to United, really. I mean, if United had an average goalkeeper with the defence we've got, we probably wouldn't have any points this season. So it makes a massive difference. They've lost a quality player in Suarez, a world-class player in Suarez, and they've got an average goalkeeper. It's getting that balance. Gerrard's another year older. They've got a lot of work to do. I mean, Henderson's coming into his own. Lallana had a pretty decent game, to be perfectly honest. I think it was his best game he's played for Liverpool since signing for him.
Yeah.
But they just don't seem to have that cutting edge. They don't seem to have that, the fear factor. And we've seen it at United. United lost a big player in Ronaldo, and we've never really replaced him. But it's that fear factor. United have now maybe got it back in the attack, but clubs know that they can come at United with the defence that we've got, and they know the same with Liverpool. If they go at Liverpool, then they're going to get a chance. But I think, in all fairness, in that game, massive turning point in regards to the penalty, and it goes back to, I think it was maybe the first or the second show that we did. The standard of refereeing is absolutely shocking.
I've been saying for a few years now, and a lot of people have disagreed with me, but whenever I watch different leagues, it never seems to be as bad as this, whether it's lower leagues, whether it's like Brazilian leagues and stuff like that, and some pretty serious stuff goes on in them leagues, but they always seem to be either waiting for the linesman to make a decision, waiting for the fourth official. It always seems to be an issue with them. And in big games, there always seems to be an incident. I can't remember the last big game I saw where it all went smoothly. But nevertheless... Can
I just nip in on that point there? It was very interesting that you say that. One thing that I've always thought, though, with refereeing, I think what our biggest problem is in this country, this is just my opinion, of course, is the fact that we don't put the refs in front of the camera at the end of the game. So the ref, let's take the Liverpool game for example, he gives away a penalty which we all know isn't a penalty, it's nowhere near in the box, but the ref's just like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to finish this game, do my match report, send it off to the officials, and I'm going to go home. Nobody's going to question me, as long as he stays away from the newspapers the morning after. He never hears about it again. Exactly,
and it was the same with the incident with, obviously I'm never going to forget that incident, but with the Champions League match between Chelsea and Barcelona. There were so many incidents, but the referee retired after that match, but he never came out and there was blatant decisions that went against Chelsea, and he just got a free ride for it. Sometimes in the Premier League they get demoted down to the Championship, but that's not really a punishment. That's just reffing another match.
I think he got most of the decisions right in that Champions League game now.
Okay, I'm just gonna end the show where we are now. But yeah, let's go on to the next match. Manchester United Everton. I would say a comfortable win. If United could have stopped Everton from scoring, then I think it could have been at least 4-0. Once Leighton Baines missed the penalty, I could see United getting a good few goals, but they just seem to lack that last bit again.
I think it was just with that. I think you'll probably see a different player now in Falcao. I think he's been snatched.
Yeah, he needed that first goal to sort of boost his morale, didn't he?
Yeah, he had let's be honest, he could have had a hat trick in the game, and a player of his quality he maybe should have done, but he snatched at a few chances. Again, I think in that game, I mean it's not a biased United fan's opinion, but I don't think that was a penalty either. If you watch it again, he clearly takes the ball before he takes the man. Yeah, it's reckless, and in full speed, full time, real time, it does look like a penalty.
I mean, my first thought when I saw that challenge, when I was watching it on the TV, was it's a penalty. But as you say, when you see the slow motion replays, that it probably could have been a bit harsh, especially on Luke Shaw, because he's just come back from injury. He's probably thinking, "Oh God, this is the worst thing that could have happened to me." And
I think it was just a rash challenge, wasn't it? He realised he'd let the player run off the back of him. He'd not really tracked the player, and I think it was a rash challenge.
But I also think that's experience as well, isn't it? That's experience. He's a young player. He's probably thinking, "I have to make a tackle here."
Yeah, he's a young kid. He's playing at if not the biggest football club in the world, and he's had a bit of stick over the summer. He's had an injury. It's never easy going to a new club to start with, but if you get an injury before you can even kick a ball, then that's completely different. But I think in real time it looked like a penalty. Replays it, I don't think it was. But again, that's football. It's a talking point. We wouldn't be talking about it now if there was video replays and stuff. I thought, to be fair in the game, I was massively disappointed, to be perfectly honest. Everybody's gone on about De Gea, and don't get me wrong, he had probably the game of his life for United, and he pulled off some amazing saves, but he doesn't make that save in the last minute of the game. He doesn't tip that over the bar. If Tyler Blackett doesn't throw himself in front of Gareth Barry's shot from 8 yards out,
Yeah.
And nobody has mentioned Tyler Blackett. He threw himself in front of the ball to make sure that it wasn't going in.
Yeah, and also you've seen it with a few of the young kids that have come for United. That Paddy McNair, he made a game-saving interception the last match, and I think De Gea's, as much as United have got a poor defence this year, they're coming good when it's really needed. They might not be defending excellent for the 90 minutes, but like in crucial moments, they've not been bad.
Yeah.
I just think, sorry for butting in there.
No, it's okay, mate, go for it.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to pick up on a couple of points as well. I just want to note about Everton. When we actually think about it, just personally my opinion, I think Everton did play quite well against Man United, considering the trip they had in the Europa League just a few days before. I think Everton, actually, I can understand completely what you mean about Man United being quite dominant, but I mean, look at Everton. I mean, De Gea doesn't have, as Richard said, like the game of his Man United career. Everton leave Old Trafford with at least a point, if not 3. Yeah. And that was quite, in my opinion, a quite poor Everton performance, and yet they still created chances.
And considering they've had a pretty poor start as well, it's not a bad performance, to get their season sort of started and get their playing rhythm again, because they've brought the players in, like they've spent some money, and they've bought a good player in Lukaku, and he's not firing at the moment, but as long as he's assisting.
I just think it was one of them games at Old Trafford where on another day, that's 5-5, 6-5, 6-4, 5-4. On another day, I mean, Howard pulled off some great saves. Falcao missed a couple of easy chances. He should have had a hat-trick. De Gea's pulled off 3 or 4 world-class saves in the game. It's one of them games where it was end-to-end. Both teams have not really had the best of starts to the season.
No.
Both have got obviously issues. Lukaku's a great player. He doesn't look fit to me. He looks like he's lost a yard of pace. He's not that. But last season and the season before that, he bullied United. The 5-5 at West Brom away. He's one of only 4 players in the Premier League to score a hat trick against United. He bullied us that day when he came on in that game. He bullied us at Old Trafford last season with Everton. And he just doesn't look like the same player. I don't know if he's carrying an injury, whether he's not proving a point anymore. He was maybe thinking, I'm going to prove a point here and I'm going to go back to Chelsea next season and I'm going to be their star striker. And I don't know now whether he's massively disappointed with not the fact that he's at Everton.
And also he didn't particularly play amazing for Belgium in the World Cup. There was a lot of times where you thought come on, show a bit more passion. And he was always sort of like doing what Balotelli's doing this season. It's not going his way, so he sulks a bit on the pitch. You saw him sulking with the manager, and I think that's a lot of why Chelsea were like, well, you can't do this with Mourinho because Mourinho all he's going to do is bench you. So, that might have been in the back of his head. I know that he probably didn't want to fight for his place. He probably felt that he deserved the place, but you can't really choose that at a big club. You have to either wait your turn or go, and he's gone. But a lot of the time, it was always it was him. It was the issues that he was bringing. He was always a yard off. He's not a bad player, but I don't think he's a player of Chelsea standard, if you know what I mean.
He's better than Torres.
Oh yeah, but then. I think many people are better than Torres, but then if you look at like Diego Costa, he's settled in perfectly. Would Lukaku have even got close? Like even Remy scored on his debut.
Can I just bring up a point about Lukaku that I've always thought is when you think you've mentioned the past 2 seasons, what do they have in common with Lukaku? He was on loan, and what's the one thing that's different is he now has a permanent deal. So I'm just wondering maybe mentally if that effort isn't there, because instead of a 1-year loan, this is now a 4-year something deal. So he's now settled in. So maybe it's something mentality.
Yeah, maybe he was trying too hard.
Maybe he was really thinking, right, I need to maybe get this move that I want. And as it's now happened, maybe the mentality's gone a bit because he's now tied down with Everton, possibly.
Yeah, I can say I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. Maybe he always said that he wanted to replace Drogba at Chelsea, so maybe he was trying his hardest to cement that place. And when it hasn't come, maybe his morale's just completely dipped.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on to the next match. Chelsea 2, Arsenal 0. Did you guys watch the match? Of course,
yes.
I was at the match. It was a amazing atmosphere and an amazing result for Chelsea. You know, I wasn't as dominant as last year, but I personally feel that we played better than last year because they actually had no attacking route. They were completely stopped, and I felt like they didn't know what to do.
I think that's probably that's probably, in my opinion, the performance of the season, just in terms of, like, you look at the Arsenal attack, and it's probably up there in the league, and Chelsea just played their stuff as if they were playing a Sunday League side.
Exactly.
I mean, there wasn't a shot on target, so...
Exactly, and one thing that really impressed me was the way that every player was tracking back. You know, every player was marking their man, and it really shut out Arsenal. And like Cesc Fabregas against Mesut Ozil just didn't have a clue what to do from the minute the match started. I thought Welbeck was showing signs of why United didn't want him. You know, he was poor on the ball. He was attacking fine, but it was getting in the final third, and he just did not have a clue what to do, and I can completely understand why United wanted rid of him.
I mean, I think with that game, I mean, obviously, I actually feel like I want to sit back and just listen to you two tell this out, to be perfectly honest with you both. But I think with that game, I think again, I mean, I watched the match. It's a blatant penalty. You know, for me, should he have been sent off? He was last man. Maybe, you know, he should have been. But again, I think it's a totally different game of football if the referee gets the first big decision right, and Cahill should have been sent off. It was a disgraceful challenge, and that's a completely different game if Cahill gets sent off. Yeah, the referee missed he got a few big decisions wrong. The penalty, I think it's a red card. Danny Welbeck at the end of the game, 2-footed challenge. Easily, if Gas doesn't see that challenge coming in, that's a leg breaker.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. When I was in the stadium, from where I was sitting, I was watching the ball. I didn't actually see the challenge until I saw it on TV. But yeah, definitely, it is a red card. You know, you can't condone that. He's gone in to hurt him. But I can also see the point of, which hasn't really been in the TV that much. I don't know if you've seen it around social media at the moment, but the Sanchez punch. You know, that's another one where Sanchez blatantly punches Branislav Ivanovic in the back, and nothing seems to happen about that. So, you know, there could have been a few red cards thrown in that match. Yeah. And I don't know if Chelsea's whole match would have been completely changed if Cahill would have got sent off, but I think it would definitely have stopped. It would have probably been a draw.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you look at for me in a football match. And I've always had this opinion ever since. I mean, I've played football. I've watched football my whole life, and you never ever see an ex-professional go into refereeing. It's always, you know, impartial people all the time.
Yeah.
But the fact that, you know, a player's reaction, crowd's reaction, and the manager's reaction. I mean, we've seen Arsene Wenger get a bit leery on the sidelines, and seen him at Old Trafford walk up and stand on the top of the dugout and things like that. You know, and he's a character.
Yeah.
But the way he reacted with Mourinho was a completely different reaction. The players' reactions was the same. You know, they didn't want Cahill going near the player because they knew he'd gone in to hurt him. And I just think if an ex-professional was a manager, he'd have realised how the players have reacted there and known straight away that's a bad challenge.
Yeah.
You know, like I said,
when I saw the replay, I don't know if it was because Branislav Ivanovic got punched and then Cahill went in for that sort of you don't do that to my player sort of thing. But you can't really condone that. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know what, Cahill was right for what he done, because he's not. You know, he's a fellow professional at the end of the day. He can do this. He can do the thing that you might think's the dirty thing, but you rise above it. At the end of the match, people are going to remember Sanchez's punch and not your tackle.
Yeah, I think I'd like to. I mean, I'd like to get an Arsenal fan's point of view on. You know, they've got they've not got a bad side. I mean, I'll never be Danny Welbeck's biggest fan. He's a workhorse. He runs about the pitch. He does what he needs to do. But I'd like to hear, an Arsenal fan on his opinion. And Andrew, if you don't mind saying,
Yeah, honestly, sure. I'll own up to it now. Yeah.
When he signed for Arsenal, now I've heard pundits, I've heard ex-Man United players, I've heard pundits going on that United should have held out for more money for him. I was doing backflips around my front room. We got £16 million for him.
I'm really surprised about that, actually, because honestly, when I first heard that Arsenal might be getting Danny Welbeck, I was concerned because I thought he might be a loan. When I actually heard it was a permanent deal, I was really impressed. I was actually quite happy.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, because the thing with Arsenal is Arsenal's attack needs a workhorse, and that is Danny Welbeck.
I can completely understand what you're saying, because at the moment with Giroud, the issue was that he wasn't running around the pitch. He was waiting up top for that Ozil ball through. With Welbeck, he'll make these things like he did against Galatasaray midweek. Sometimes he'll make them runs on his own without anything. The problem with Welbeck was always the finishing. He'd try for the spectacular chip where you just want him to finish the ball. You're shouting at the TV, just take your opportunity. But I was also one of them people that was like, really, you're waiting for a world class striker, and Danny Welbeck's coming through the door. I don't know if there was other people in the market waiting, but I can't see it was a bad buy, but certainly wasn't the buy I was expecting Arsenal to make.
I just think if you look at it, and I always, regardless of any signing, whether it's Danny Welbeck, whether it's Balotelli, whether it's Falcao, whether it's Fabregas, you look at it, and I always look at the fans' reactions from the team that the player's leaving. And, maybe Fabregas wanted to go back to Arsenal. I don't quite understand if that's true, why Arsenal didn't want him. I think he's a million times better than anything Arsenal have got in their midfield. But with Danny Welbeck leaving Manchester United, there wasn't that many fans that were annoyed about it. They were maybe a bit annoyed that he went to Arsenal, because we've got that rivalry with Arsenal. We have Pizzagate and we had all the other crap back in the day. But I don't think anybody was really that bothered. It's the same with Balotelli to Liverpool. Nobody at AC Milan was really that bothered that Balotelli was leaving. So the fact that the players that were out there and the players that were available and the players that Arsenal were linked with, I think you've got to look at it at this point of view. Manchester United were linked all summer with world-class defenders. And for one reason or another, they weren't available. So we didn't buy anybody. And yeah, that's a mistake because we've not got the defence now. But what's the point in wasting 8, 9, 10, 12, 15, 20 million pound on a player that's just a stopgap? And I think with Arsenal, that was the kind of thing, Danny Welbeck's available, he's £16 million, let's get him. On the basis of we know he's not going to be the 20-goal-a-season striker that we need. He's not a replacement for your Van Persies. He's not, in a way, he's not a replacement for Adebayor. Adebayor at Arsenal was frightening. The games he played, he was world class. And that's why they got 25, 26 million for him from Man City.
It could be interesting to see though. Like you could possibly say that Welbeck was always sort of that impact player at United. You never know. He could continue to perform like he did against Galatasaray, and he could turn out to be a good striker for Arsenal. But one of the problems, and I don't know if you agree, Andrew, was what's going to happen when Giroud is fit?
He won't get in the team. Giroud doesn't deserve to be in that team if Danny Welbeck's playing anywhere near to how he played against Galatasaray. Simple as that. Giroud just doesn't. There's a lot of, when I go to the Emirates, people don't cheer when Giroud comes on the team sheet. They do because he's an Arsenal player, but you know what I mean. It's not that Thierry Henry factor. It's not the yes, this is it. We're going to win with Giroud. It's not like how Chelsea have Diego Costa. It's nowhere near that.
Who's the other lad that Arsenal have got that plays up front?
Joel Campbell.
No, the other guy.
Yaya Sanogo?
Yeah. How does he get paid to play football?
But then again, he's on a short wage, and he was a free transfer. That's the thing we shouldn't forget about Yaya Sanogo. He wasn't supposed to come in and score 50 goals. He's only supposed to just be here. He's basically Wenger's last project, trying to make him half as good as Thierry Henry.
I think he was meant to be the sort of next Anelka. Not coming with big expectations, but could be sold on for a few million in a few years.
From an Arsenal fan's point of view, I mean, I've got a few Arsenal fan friends and a few people I speak to on Twitter and things like that, and I've had my banter backwards and forwards with Piers Morgan, and don't get me started on him. I'll leave that there what it is. But as an Arsenal fan, do you really think it's maybe time for Wenger to say, right, that's it. This is maybe my last year. Get somebody else in, fresh ideas. I mean, look at United. We don't get me wrong. We had years and years and years of success, but the stubbornness of Alex Ferguson has cost us now he's left. Everybody could see United needed to replace players and needed to bring certain players in, but Ferguson never did. Obviously, we had the David Moyes episode, and again, we'll leave that where it is. And now it's starting to change. It's a new manager, new philosophies, new ideas, new formations, bringing in different types of players.
Don't you think that could backfire, though? Because, from when Alex Ferguson was a manager, he's never really bought a star. And he never really needed to be fair. I mean, there was only short sections of his career. Okay, there was the poor start, but then once the ball got rolled in, he was very successful. But it was only when Chelsea had that amazing team that really stopped him. Like, he had an amazing team full of youngsters, and then he bought youngsters like the Cristiano Ronaldos. It could have been Januzaj. He had these players waiting in the wings. He didn't particularly need a star player. Like, don't you think a star player would have been Alex Ferguson sort of giving up?
Well, no, I'm not saying it was obviously. And I'm not saying that. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. United were blessed. With Alex Ferguson was blessed at the class of '92 for that amount of players to come through and play at such a high level and be internationals and win what we won with the kids. That'll never happen again. That in anybody's lifetime, yet alone ours. But I just think, as from an Arsenal point of view, Andrew, do you think that maybe it's time for a change? Maybe it's time for a new manager, new philosophies, new ideas.
And also, if you do, who do you feel could come in after Wenger?
Well, I'm obviously born 94, so Wenger has been the manager pretty much for my whole footballing supporting life. So I have got that loyalty with him. Whereas some older fans are possibly not that much into it. Of course, I don't want to speak for all Arsenal fans at all here. That's not what I'm doing. But I think it will happen. It has to happen, of course. So, I mean, speaking of candidates, I think most people are looking at Roberto Martinez as possibly, because he's kind of got the same philosophy, but it is different, and it hopefully could possibly bring success. That's probably what I would have to say.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a great answer, and I have to say that's brilliant. That's your opinion, and that's why you come on the show for. Right, our next topic is our picks for promotion from the Sky Bet Championship. So I don't know how much of the championship you've been watching, lads, but who's your top picks for promotion?
Well, for me, I mean, usually, it's you usually look at the three teams that go down. It's going to be pretty difficult for anybody in the championship to compete with them, because obviously the best teams, the three best teams from the year before that they were competing against have gone up. So it's not as if it's a case of, right, okay, them three teams have gone up now, right, guys, we've got a chance, because whichever way round you look at it, three decent teams are coming down into that league, and obviously Norwich have started fantastically well. Obviously, 21 points, top of the league, with Forest and Watford. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
I'm shocked by Fulham.
Yeah, Fulham have shocked me massively. That for me, I mean, I know there was a few rumblings in the media and stuff about players not liking the manager's philosophy and things like that. there seemed to have been something's gone on there at that football club because, you'd expect Fulham to go down. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I know they've lost a few players and things like that, and they had some decent players, but they should have been. They were my pick to win the championship. And they struggle. I mean, Norwich have done fantastically well. I'd really like to see Forest come up.
Yeah, that was one of my picks. I'd really like to see sort of Forest, for a bit of history. They've got obviously a lot of history at that club, and I always feel like when you watch Forest, you can't help but thinking of that team, and you want to see them back at their greatest. You want to see England dominating teams like they did before. Whether they could, I don't know, but you like to see them sort of teams. But also, as much as I don't think many people like them, Leeds were my pick to come up. They had a lot of money spent. They brought in a new manager. I thought this might be their year, but they're another team that seems to have stalled.
One team that's done. Oh, sorry, Richard. But I was just going to say, one team that I think's done really impressive this season is Charlton, who are now 7th, 19 points. They only really just avoided relegation last season. I mean, they've done a great turnaround this year in the Championship.
Yeah, definitely.
I think as well. I mean, I don't know whether it's just nostalgia or not, but I'd like Blackburn back in the Premier League as well. On the reason for that is, Ewood Park's it's one of the romantic stadiums, one of the romantic grounds. It's old school, and the atmosphere at Ewood Park was always good. And obviously the Blackburn situation, back in the start of the Premier League and things. But I just think that Jordan Rhodes is an amazing striker, and I just want to see him in the Premier League.
Yeah. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to stop the call right now because Andrew's had a problem, but we will start up the call in a second. We'll be right back. Okay, sorry for that, guys. We're back now. Just a little internet dropout, but we're back to where we were. We were saying about the. I think you were saying about Blackburn.
Yeah, I was just saying. I mean, I think Jordan Rhodes has got so much potential. And I don't think he's shown it enough for a Premier League team to want to take that chance. Because I mean, what did Blackburn spend? About £8-9 million on him. So
yeah, there was a lot of money spent on him, wasn't there?
They're gonna want £10-12 million for him.
Yeah.
I just think I'd like to see him in the Premier League, but I don't think anyone's going to buy him. I'd like Blackburn to get back up there.
I think the only team I could see buying him at the moment would be QPR, because they seem to have a thing about buying these English, British players that no other team wants. Whether Redknapp can work his magic with him, I don't know, but we'll see. A big shock for me so far from the Championship was Wigan. From a team that was so good last year, to be fighting relegation is. Yeah, it's a long season, but at the moment it's not a good start.
It's only been 11 games, but I mean, even the little things of what's happening at Bolton. They look like they're going to go down. They've got a point less than Blackpool, and Blackpool 2-3 weeks before the start of the season had 8 players.
Yeah, oh, definitely. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Bolton, my scariest thing when I look at Bolton is a minus 13 goal difference. So, I mean,
it's terrible.
After 11 games?
Considering a few years ago, they were sort of a mid-table team.
Yeah, definitely.
It just shows for me that the gulf in class, and I think, the fact that they've dropped down to a league and maybe they thought they could bounce right back up, but everybody goes on about the gulf in class between the Premier League and the Championship. I don't think there's that much difference.
No, I agree totally. But also I think it's the players' mentality. Players like Sidwell, they left Fulham and went to Stoke. Isn't it better to just stay with a team, be loyal, and become a sort of legend at one club instead of just jumping ship when it gets tough?
I'd have liked to have seen Berbatov in the Championship.
No, that would have been awful.
But the thing is, like with these players, I mean, Berbatov's doing okay at Monaco at the moment, but with these players, Fulham could have just basically just bounced back up. You know, they had some good players, but I always felt it was the manager's fault. They didn't give a manager long enough when they went through all of these managers that they had in the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think that's the main issue really. You know, we've picked up on, you know, with Arsenal and Arsene Wenger. Is it maybe time to change the manager as an Arsenal fan's point of view, and you know, different philosophies and things like that? But you know, when you're changing your manager on a regular basis every 6 months, it's a new philosophy, it's a new formation, it's a new way of doing things, and you know, it can't be easy for a footballer. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're on millions and millions, and you know, they should be able to deal with it, but you know, you've seen it in the Premier League. You know?
Yeah. Especially with Chelsea, you know, you've seen some managers come in where they've played a completely different style, and like even like Lampard at his best was being dropped, and it was just like, well, you can't expect every manager to come in and think you're the world's best player, you know, unless you're the sort of standout player like Messi or Ronaldo. You know, everyone's expendable.
Yeah.
And also different formations, different tactics, different backroom staff. You know, we've seen some managers come in that don't even speak English. You know, it's a big issue.
Yeah, look at the situation last year with United. I think United have had a different season if David Moyes hadn't have messed about with the backroom staff so much.
Yeah,
you know,
like bringing Phil Neville into the club. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, even silly things like, you know, not a lot of people know this, but Eric Steele, the goalkeeping coach, for a good long while, David De Gea couldn't speak English. So because he wanted to communicate with him on a day-to-day basis, Eric Steele taught himself Spanish.
Yeah, that shows you the committedness.
You know, for a goalkeeping coach to do that and show that much commitment to a player, it gives him so much confidence.
Yeah.
And 12 months later, he's dealing with Chris Woods. Now, don't get me wrong, Chris Woods was an amazing goalkeeper, and he's probably an amazing goalkeeping coach. But it's that transition, and I think if you mess about with a backroom staff, and I think a lot of fans and a lot of people don't realise how important the backroom staff is.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for a club like United. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, they're no different from any other club, because you've seen the way that youth players come through. You've seen the way that the staff have been there for ages. Okay, you switched around the assistant manager a few times, but you know, the backroom staff grew. You know, the players grew with the club, and I think that's what made United different from the other sort of like biggest teams in the world, because you've seen these players basically, like even Ferdinand. I don't like the guy, but he'd been there so long, you know, that you knew what he was doing. Even Vidic last season, I didn't think he was great, but the players knew him, so they knew his strengths, they knew his weaknesses, and suddenly that all changed, and I don't think anyone at United knew what to do.
I think too many clubs, you know, in England especially, are too quick to get rid of a manager.
Yeah.
You know, there's talk. I mean, it's crazy. There was talk before the game at the weekend that Martinez's job might be on the line. There's now talks that QPR aren't going to give Harry Redknapp a new contract because they've not had a great start. You know, let's not mess about here. Harry Redknapp's probably one of the best English managers.
And England messed up not giving him the contract, really, didn't it?
Yeah. I think England are a completely different team if Harry Redknapp's the manager. Look what Harry Redknapp did at Spurs.
Yeah.
You know, and let's be honest, I mean, QPR have got their own issues, but it doesn't, you know, maybe the buck does start with the managers and things like that, but, you know, look at Arsenal, for instance. They've stuck by Arsene Wenger. They didn't win a trophy for 8, 9, 10, 15 years, whatever it was. You'll probably know that better than me, Andrew.
It was at 8, not 15.
But they stuck by him. And, you know, and they've eventually won the FA Cup, and they've got a team that's capable, if they gel right, to possibly challenge for the Premier League in a year or two. But they've stuck by that manager. They've not, you know, with all the criticism from the famous people, from pundits and whatever it may be, they've stuck by him. And I think I'd like to see a lot more teams in the English leagues, championships, you know, lower leagues. I mean, look at Leeds United. I mean, everybody, Leeds United, let's be honest, if they were back in the Premier League, it'd spice things up a little bit.
Definitely. But also, it's not gonna happen unless there's a lot of commitment, and no manager's gonna go into that club committed.
But look, the perfect example for this is Cardiff City.
Yeah.
Just who would want the Cardiff City job now? I was shocked that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer went there, but who's going to want to work under those conditions? And now they've got a lower league manager that was working there as a consultant because no other manager wants to take the job.
Yeah. I thought you was going to say something there, Andrew. What was you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to bring up the Cardiff point and also the points before. The thing is, it's just money. That's what is driving these chairmen to just hire and fire, because they don't care. A lot of them just want that instant success, and that's again what Richard said. Cardiff, a great example. It's how much do you want this golden thing of the Premier League? Are you willing to change your kit colours? Are you willing to give your club up to Vincent Tan? That's what it is these days. Yeah,
look at Hull. What's the chairman come out and said 2 weeks ago? I'm not spending another penny on this football club till we change the name to Hull Tigers. What? Why?
I think it's all because the Far East. It's because it'll appeal to all people like that, and it's investors. It's just all about the money for these people.
Definitely, I totally agree. When these owners come into these clubs, I don't think they see a football team. I think they see a business, and that's the big problem with foreign owners. Some foreign owners seem to have managed that okay, but only because their teams are doing well. I think if Chelsea were a sort of mid-table, bottom of the league team, then I don't think Abramovich would have any issues cutting ties and also changing things. But because Chelsea are doing well, he knows that it's okay to do certain things. But the way Abramovich changed managers, it shocked me because, we had Ranieri, and then I was sad to see him go, but you could understand Mourinho coming in. And then Mourinho won. Okay, didn't win the Champions League, but then, it happens. You're not going to win everything. But to sack Mourinho in the first place was just ridiculous. But then to have another world-class manager in Ancelotti and get rid of him, and then to win the one thing that you do want, which is the Champions League, and then to sack that manager. It shows just how some of these people shouldn't be in charge of a football club.
It's the same. It's the same now at Newcastle. I think, in all fairness, if Alan Pardew doesn't sign his 8-year contract 2 years ago?
8 years.
If he doesn't sign an 8-year contract, if he's got 2 years left on a 4-year deal, he's gone. They get rid of him. Simple as that. But Mike Ashley knows he's got 6 years to pay off. He's got massive layout. And then who's he going to replace him with? He's probably going to have to get a manager from another club, which he's going to have to pay compensation for. That manager's going to want a wage. He knows that Alan Pardew's got an 8-year lucrative deal. So the issue that Newcastle have got is they've got a manager that the fans clearly want out. They don't want him there. Newcastle aren't performing. They did all right against Swansea. They got a point out of it. But to be fair, Swansea should have beaten 4-1, 3-1. They should have had that game wrapped up. But that's the issue that you've got, with clubs these days, is maybe sometimes they want to get rid of a manager, but they can't. Look at United. They possibly wanted to get rid of David Moyes a lot earlier than he did. Turns out he had a clause in his contract that he had to qualify for the Champions League. As soon as he doesn't qualify for the Champions League, they get rid of him.
But also, I did hear quite a few stories, whether it's true that they knew that he wasn't going to. They knew that David Moyes wasn't going to, but they just tried to get it because that's what Alex Ferguson wanted. So now it was like, you don't make the decisions.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone knew that don't give Alex Ferguson the chance to pick the next manager, because he's not going to pick it on merit. Because if he was going to pick it on merit, Mourinho would be at the club now. We all saw how much he was sliming up to Ferguson the season before when Real Madrid played United. It was Gaffer this, it was Gaffer that. I know they were friends. I know they were close in the league, and I know he rated him as a manager. But it was obvious what Mourinho wanted. And for him to choose David Moyes over Mourinho, it still says an awful lot.
And then Mourinho chose his second choice to go back to Chelsea.
It is, but then it hurts when you say it like that. But then considering we've got Mourinho and he's sort of playing well now, it doesn't hurt as much. And and Mourinho's never going to admit it, so it doesn't really matter to me now. So it didn't happen. This was his first choice. But so let's go on to the third topic. This is television versus stadiums, like how the big companies are ignoring the lower leagues, and how it's really affecting teams that are the sort of Wycombe Wanderers, the sort of Barnets. They don't really get the recognition they deserve. Every football team's special to a group of people, but some people just can't go to the stadiums. But why do you think this is a big deal for Sky, just not showing the lower leagues like they probably should be?
It's funny that you mentioned. Oh, sorry, Richard. It's funny that you mentioned that. What's Sky's new logo for this season? It's more of the games that matter. It's just Premier League. That's
but
it.
Matter who?
That's the point. That's
exactly.
That's what they're saying. It's the games that matter. So therefore, Premier League. If you've ever heard of somebody out of the Championship, it doesn't matter. We're not going to show them. We'll show them once on a Saturday morning because we don't have the rights to show the other match, the actual Premier League match. So we're just going to give you one Championship game a weekend.
Exactly. And I'm seeing all of these Sky channels, and they're not cheap, but you have a lot of extra channels that you could be showing these matches on. Gillette Soccer Sport's great for a few weeks, but then you're like, I want to see a bit more. And the Football League show on BBC, it's all right, but even that is the second class show. It's not as important.
Yeah, look what time that's on. What exactly. Is it? 11:30, 11:45?
Exactly, and they're moaning that fans won't go to the stadium and stuff like that. It's just like, well, probably the kids that go to the stadium and the adults, like, they're the ones that live close to it, but how are they supposed to watch the football? You don't put it on. You don't give them a chance to watch it. Chelsea's on nearly every week, if not then every fortnight, and it's not right.
I think, in all fairness, it all comes down to money at the end of the day. And look at the you've just got to look at the sponsorships and things. It's the same. Maybe it's the same with Scottish football as well. We don't really give the lower leagues, we don't give them the credit that they deserve. Well, I don't say, when I say we, I mean obviously the TV companies.
Yeah.
Is somebody really going to want to advertise? Barnet v whoever. They're not really going to want it. And are they going to get Are they going to get the viewings? Are they going to get people wanting to subscribe to an extra sports channel where they show more Championship games, where they show more League One games, And I think what they've got to look at is they're missing out massively. They're missing out hugely in a way that when the so-called lower league teams play the big dogs in the FA Cup, they're cracking games of football.
Yeah.
You watch some Championship games and maybe you do think, well, the standard's not that great. You watch some lower league games and the standard's not that great. And I think that's because we've all been brainwashed into thinking that the Premier League's the greatest league in the world. But
also, like, I can't agree more with what you've just said. But also, I feel like that sometimes. I'm watching a Championship match and it's like, oh, come on. I want to see a bit more like flair. I want to see a bit more like that. But that's never really been the English game. And when you go into the lower leagues, you're watching proper English football. It's, the old classic, big, tall centre-backs knocking players off the ball. And I'm watching a Premier League match, someone like Stoke versus Newcastle. And it's terrible. It's terrible to watch.
Yeah, I think as well, you see a lot. You see a lot of a difference. I mean, if you actually watch the lower league of football, a lot of stuff goes. Referees let things go. You see some 50-50 challenges that you used to see back in the 80s and the early 90s, and you think, oh, that Premier League referee blows. It's a red card. It's a free kick. It's somebody's on the pitch for 5 minutes rubbing somebody with a sponge. But
exactly.
Lower leagues, it's just a case of, right, get on with it. And I don't know whether
And I also think it's a lot more passion as well. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I agree completely. It's the I think it's a good point you make about the Premier League. We have been basically thought that this is the best league in the world. It's like Man City, Aston Villa this weekend was not a great game. No one would say that's one for the classics. But I bet there was a game in League Two where about 1,000 people went, but 900 left and thought that was a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's the difference. I mean, I think that it's all down to money at the end of the day. And I think obviously Sky, like you say, the more of what matters and things like that. The fact of the matter is, I think a lot more people, regardless of who you support, should maybe get down to your local team. Your Stockport Counties or your Wycombe Wanderers or Coventry City. I mean, look at Coventry City. That football club in the Premier League, they had some great games of football.
Yeah.
And
Portsmouth for another one.
Yeah, Portsmouth for the same. But I think a lot more people, regardless of who you support, I think if you get yourself down to your smaller club in the area where you live, and go and watch a game of football. If Chelsea are playing away one weekend and you're not going, go down to somebody else. If United are playing away and you're not going, get yourself down to Edgeley Park and go and watch Stockport County. I used to go. I've travelled away with Stockport County fans. And been to there, and the passion as well. The passion's different.
Yeah, it is. And also, when you go to like Stamford Bridge, I don't know whether it's like it at Old Trafford. I imagine it is, but you'll be there, and you know what? I couldn't care. I love it when Chelsea win, but I couldn't care less if they win or not, because it's not going to stop me going to the other matches. But you'll get someone who's sitting next to you, and it's like, oh, I'm not coming to this anymore if they play poor. And it's just like, well, don't come then. It's better to have fans not like you. It's better to... I'd prefer to have someone that's going to travel with Cambridge and watch their team lose in the rain while standing there and then still support their team. But it just seems like everyone wants everything in the like Championship and stuff like that, and especially like the League 1 and League 2. Like the players are playing for basically nothing. They might get a call from a big team saying they want them for this, but it never normally happens. And you see like a lot of good talent. We don't really see English talent in the Premier League. But that's my opinion. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, of course. I think 100% we've got all these, obviously, foreign imports of players. So the fact that I think Man United are doing quite well actually this season in keeping the reputation of playing these young academy players. But I mean, I completely agree the fact that we could do with English players, but I think we've signed off away with that because we want the Falcaos, the Di Marias, and the Sanchez's.
Yeah, we'd prefer to get a Hazard over a Tom Ince.
Yeah, or a Ross Barkley.
But then also. Yeah, exactly. But I also think like the English players like that, they don't do themselves any favours because they're touting themselves out like their tickets. It's just like Tom Ince, he said he wanted to play. He hasn't chosen where he's wanted to play. You shouldn't choose where you get to play. You should play for a team. And then you might get a call up if you're good enough. But don't expect it to come to you because it's not going to happen.
It's the mentality of the English players, I think.
Yeah.
It's the big wages too soon. I mean, look at Ravel Morrison. All the potential in the world.
Yeah, everyone forgets he was at United, yeah.
But just the wrong attitude. Tom Ince, again, all the potential in the world. Wrong attitude. You might not like this, Andrew, but I personally feel, Jack Wilshere.
No,
all the potential in the world.
Yeah.
Wrong attitude.
And also agents deciding what he's meant to do with his career.
Yeah, I think you look at it at the point of view, and you look at these players. Look at Ronaldo. Ronaldo comes to Manchester United as an unknown kid. Nobody knows who he is. Skinny, one-trick pony. Everybody called him for 2 years.
Yeah, and
he developed himself week in, week out. I think Rodriguez turned up at Madrid this season that they bought, James Rodriguez. And he turned up to his first training session an hour early because he wanted to be ready and fit and healthy. And by all the time the players got there, he wanted to have a an hour to himself, and he turned up to the training session an hour early, Ronaldo had already been there for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, with a youth team goalkeeper practicing free kicks. This is the world's best player at the moment.
Yeah.
And he's turning up to pre-season training 2 hours before everybody else. He's given a youth team goalkeeper a call saying, I want you there for 9 o'clock. We're going to practice.
Exactly.
And that's the difference, you know. Look at the difference as well. You've got Wilfried Zaha, who's been quite possibly for a good year and a half, 2 years, the best player in the Championship. He comes to Manchester United, maybe didn't get his chance, maybe he might have got a few more games under Alex Ferguson. He goes out on loan, doesn't really do it again for Cardiff. In the summer, he goes on the tour of America with United. Van Gaal gives the players a day off, but tells every single player that training's available if you want it. If you want to come to training, come to training. If you don't, you can have a day off.
And it's a mixed message, isn't it, really?
It's a mixed message, but it's basically saying, I want you at training tomorrow.
Yeah.
Every single player turned up for training, apart from Wilfried Zaha.
Yeah.
And he wonders why he's been sent out on loan and he didn't get a chance.
But I also think there's a big difference between the Championship and the Premier League when it comes to player quality, but not when it comes to teams, because you've seen how certain teams have come up and done well. But when you've seen an outstanding player in the Championship, you know, they seem to feel like they're warranted a place in the Premier League.
Yeah. And this is why I really, really want Jordan Rhodes to play in the Premier League. You know, because he's got that potential. He also seems to have his head screwed on as well. So, is it going to be a chance of somebody signing him? Is it going to be a chance of Blackburn getting in the Premier League? And, you know, you look at the teams that are down there at the moment, and pretty much any one of the top 10 could, you know, are in a chance of being in the playoffs and getting promoted. It's not. I mean, look at the Premier League. Chelsea are a million miles away from everybody else at the moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Championship, there's you know, the top 3 teams are on the same points. It's goal difference that's keeping them apart. You know, there's the chance down there for any one of the top 10 in the Championship to get promoted. You know, and that's the difference, I think, with the leagues, is that there's anybody in the Championship can get promoted. There's only really 6 teams in the Premier League that can win it. And you know, and the vast majority of people are fighting for the Europa League places, are fighting for the, you know, for the Champions League spaces. You know, look at Southampton. I think they've been a massive shock this season.
Definitely considering the players they lost.
Yeah, everyone thought they'd just, you know, they've lost a great manager in Pochettino. They've lost, in their eyes, their best players. Not just one of them. They've lost 2 or 3, 4 of their best players, but they're third in the Premier League.
Yeah, you really can't complain. What do you think, Andrew, about Southampton? Do you think they're a big shock, or did you see this coming?
No, I didn't see this coming. I've actually seen Southampton live this season in the Capital One Cup at the Emirates.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They were just outstanding. I think I can't say enough about Southampton this season. I think they're just a great credit to football. It's a great run club. Even though there is a bit of problems upstairs, they say, but apparently the owner now is taking a lot of ambition into the club. And they have shown the fact that, it's a great academy, isn't it? They've shown it time and time again. Oxlade-Chamberlain, Gareth Bale, Theo Walcott, and now they've done it with all this new brand of players, and they'll probably do it again.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. Right, I think this is the show up, guys. I want to thank Andrew for coming on, and obviously Richard, co-host. So I expect you on every week, no fail. But no, it'd be great to have you on again, Andrew. I think you've talked some brilliant points today, and thank you for coming on.
That's great. Thanks a lot, guys. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, cheers, Andrew, mate.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
No worries, mate. We'll see all the guys for the next episode. We might have some new guests. If you think of some topics that you want us to discuss, you know, it might be the next football incidents that happen. You know, put them in the comment section. You know, leave this video a like, subscribe for new content, and thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks very much, guys. See you later.